Welcome back to episode 15 of the Double Down podcast presented by Waterwave. Today is Friday, January 27th, and I'm excited to be back on the mic with all you beautiful people. You know, it's been a month off with the holiday season and the start of the new year, taking a little break with finals, and excited to be back on the mic with you guys. We're in a little different location today. If you guys can tell, we're actually in Maturi Pavilion here on campus of the University of Minnesota. And I'm excited to be back with you guys, joining you live. Before we jump into our interview, I just kind of want to give an update on the knee. So 7 months. Track test was actually Wednesday, which is today because we pre-record episodes. So got really good results. Everything is kind of, going along the right way. And we're excited to keep going and getting better. So before we get into the interview, we want to give a shout out to royaltyfam.com for sponsoring all of our sportswear. The Double Down podcast merchandise will be available very soon. So make sure you go to royaltyfam.com. That's royaltyfam.com and then DM the Double Down podcast for a discount code for that. Today's feature interview is a special one to me because it's actually an interview that I definitely had on the radar early. Definitely a person that I wanted to get on this podcast from the day that I had the idea. Our guest is a native of Valparaiso, Indiana. The former 4-star recruit went on to an illustrious career at Purdue, where he garnered a share of the Big Ten title in 2010, as well as individual awards like first team All Big Ten in the 2009-2010 season, as well as second team State Farm Coaches All-American in 2010. A player and a person who I've been inspired by, Robbie Hummel.
No, thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, thank you for coming on. You know, I know you kind of got your own podcast and do a lot of podcasts, but we kind of do stuff different here on the Double Down podcast. We kind of dive deeper into, the mental and emotional side. So I'm excited to kind of get into that with you. With that being said, headed back to high school. Let's a couple of years ago, right? Yeah, it's
a couple.
Yeah, let's
couple is right.
Let's head back to that. Let's pause quick. I want to make sure your microphone's on just in case. But I can cut this part out. Perfect. Yep. All right. Headed back to high school. Tell me about the recruiting process. Kind of what was it like? And then at the end of the day, you ended up going to Purdue with teammate Scott Martin. You guys both decided to go with that illustrious Purdue class with Juwan Johnson, Etwan Moore. Kind of what made your decision easy to Purdue?
Well, it wasn't easy. I was a ball boy for Homer Drew after the post Bryce years. So after Valpo had went to the Sweet 16 in 1998, I want to say it was 99 or 2000. You could write a letter to Homer Drew and ask to be a ball boy, and you would get to do it for like 4 or 5 games. And I was lucky. One of my best friends who I played baseball with, his dad ran the ball boys. So we would get the premier games. So I grew up, even though I was in the state of Indiana, I wasn't necessarily an Indiana fan or a Purdue fan or Notre Dame fan, which is what you normally have. I was a legitimate VU fan. I really liked Valparaiso. I was that kid that when they started making the video games that had Valpo, I'd do the Dynasty, and I'd listen to the games on the radio. They're on TV. We'd watch on TV. So growing up, that's who my favorite team was. And, my sophomore year, I made the varsity at Valpo High School. We had a really good season. Went 22-3. I was our 6th man, was playing really, really well at the end of that year into the state tournament. And I got asked to play for an AU team, which was called the SYF Players, which had Luke Herringody and Etwan Moore, who came to Purdue with us as well. Jamil Tucker went to Virginia. A bunch of D1 guys and a bunch of high major players from North Indiana. So we were all on this team, and that's kind of how my recruitment really started. And I ended up with, I think, 15 or 16 offers. I had a lot of offers from Big Ten schools: Iowa, Purdue, Indiana, Northwestern. I was recruited a little bit by Ohio State, a little bit by Michigan State, Michigan, but those schools didn't offer me. And then NC State, Arizona State, Miami, Florida, Notre Dame. So there was a good amount of high major college basketball teams that had offered me. And the funny thing is that every time I felt like I liked one, they had something happen that just made them fall off. Like, I really liked NC State. Well, Herb Sendek's like, you know what? I am sick of recruiting against Carolina and Duke. I'm going to Arizona State. So he left, and that just totally upended that recruitment. And he offered me at Arizona State, but I just didn't want to play in the Pac-12. And honestly, if I had visited, maybe I would have changed my tune to see what Tempe's like in February. But yeah, totally. I really liked Indiana. and I visited for the IU Duke game, which is where JJ Redick had 33 points in this incredible Big Ten ACC Challenge game. And Assembly Hall was unbelievable for this game. And I really liked Indiana. Donnie Marsh and Mike Davis did a great job recruiting me. And then Coach Davis kind of got run out of town. So then I was kind of back to square one again. And all through that, Matt Painter had done a great job of recruiting not just me, but my high school teammate Scott Martin, Etwan Moore is my AU teammate. Juwan Johnson played for the other really good team in Indiana that was our age. So that's Matt Howard from Butler, Ben Botts, Zach Hahn, bunch of really good players. So Juwan played on that team, and Juwan was the first to commit. And, we kind of started all talking, and Etwan Moore and I had kind of talked, and we were like, maybe we want to play together in college. And it was something that worked out really well because we were good friends. We fit together well. So Etwan and I committed, and then Scott was kind of the fourth domino to fall, and we ended up having a great recruiting class.
Yeah, I mean, the recruiting class like that, oftentimes, especially in Indiana, big recruiting class, big Indiana basketball high school scene, coming in. What was your role, or what did you think your role kind of was coming in freshman year?
To play at Purdue?
Yeah, coming into Purdue, especially we talk about with our younger guys, freshman year is such a tough year because you're kind of trying to find your way.
Yeah,
is that
totally.
kind of something you experienced?
Yeah, it was. I think every freshman goes through that. I think it's impossible not to. Now, we were gifted one thing where we were really fortunate. That was opportunity. Like, they needed us to play because of the personnel who was on the team. We had a good class ahead of us with Chris Kramer, who was the defensive player of the year, I think twice and 4 times all defensive team, and Keaton Grant, who's a 1,000-point scorer. So we had those guys ahead of us who were great mentors. But, we came in and we had to play. But I was hoping that my role would be come in, earn as many minutes as I can, hopefully like 15 or 20, defend and make open shots. So being first team All Big Ten as a freshman was pretty shocking. Like, it was totally, if you would have told me that before the season, I'd been like, I hope I just get to play. Like, I really hope I just get to play. And it was one of those things where you build confidence and shots start going in. And I became a little superstitious. I cut my finger, my pinky, so you can still see it. I sliced this bad boy on a plane. You can see the scar. We played at Clemson, and I had missed the game-winning shot. I said the F word on national TV. My mom was so mad at me. So mad at me. Like, legitimately called me after the game and was appalled. And we're flying home, and I get a cramp from playing like 32 minutes at Clemson in my hamstring. And I push myself up, and I catch my pinky in between the armrest and like the screw it's sitting on. And this thing is bleeding. Its blood is shooting up on the ceiling of the plane. I mean, it's squirting blood, like it's spraying blood out. And so they had to make this piece that went over the top, and it was this plastic hard shell, and I would tape it on. And I did it for every game the rest of my career in college. And then even into the pros until I was overseas in Spain, and it broke. Which maybe that's why my pro career wasn't as good. But I shot the ball I shot like 44 from 3 that year.
You did 44.7.
Yeah, right. You've done your homework. I was on fire, but it was like, so I got a little superstitious on it. I'd never let that thing go through college, and maybe I should have never just made another one. Yeah. But I hoped that I just played. That was really my goal.
Yeah, and such a good attitude to have come in, because if you come in with that, I'm going to be first team All Big Ten.
Yeah, I mean, that's not very realistic.
Exactly.
For most situations, and I was really lucky. It was really more of a product of our team's success.
For sure. Yeah, and you talk about being first team Big Ten. You actually led the conference in 3-point percentage. You played 33 games. You started 31 of them. You talk about having an awesome year. Take us through kind of that summer going into the sophomore year. Obviously, you have a great year. You want to kind of replicate that, take another step. What did your game need? Like, what was the biggest step for you?
I think for me, it was just progressing off of being more than just a 3-point shooter. Mm-hmm. I was starting to see, and I would see in my sophomore year, some of these coaches in the Big Ten who are so good. Yeah. They were going to be like, you know what? This dude never posts up. We'll just put a guard on him. We'll put Chester Frazier on him, who's now an assistant coach at Illinois. Yep. So Chester would guard me, and just, I couldn't score because or David Lighty would guard me, and it's same deal. I'm just like, man, this is different. So the ability to maybe take some of those smaller defenders inside, and then just continue to become a better athlete, become a better player, keep playing off the closeout. Because if you can make shots at this level, and any level really, in basketball, that opens the floor up for you so much, because people have to close out to you. Now it's different when you're driving it. You can get to your pull-up. So just becoming a better player, getting as good a shape as I could. We took a foreign trip to Australia, which was really cool. So we went to Sydney, Brisbane, and Cannes. Actually, kind of got whooped. Went 2 and 3. We played Dellavedova.
Oh, really?
He was like 19.
That's ironic.
Yeah, he was on the Australian Institute of Sport team, but we played these pro teams in Sydney and Brisbane and Cannes, and we only beat one of them, the team in Brisbane.
Wow.
We lost the Sydney team, we lost the Cannes team.
And that started out the year, which in turn led to a pretty good year.
Yeah, it did. Now, it was not without, ups and downs.
Yeah,
we
sure.
lost. I think we lost our first couple Big Ten games, kind of put ourselves behind the 8 ball. Lost at home on senior night to Northwestern, which I regret to this day because I played 3-on-3 with Craig Moore. I used to, and he still talks about this stupid game. I think they out-rebounded us, which is pathetic against their team. They did not have anybody that should have been out-rebounded us. But then it was like something just clicked. We lost at home to Northwestern. We went on my birthday to Michigan State, and we're in a game we were never really in. Like, we lost by 10, but we were never going to win on senior day. And then went to the Big Ten tournament and won it. Like, it was like, I have no idea how. I have no idea why. But all of a sudden, we were on fire.
Things started to click.
Yeah, they did. And I had dealt with a back injury that year, so I felt like, for me personally, I started to get healthy, and I had a really good Big Ten tournament. And unfortunately, we lost to UConn in the Sweet 16 after beating a really good Washington team in Portland, which is the most non-neutral NCAA tournament. And they had Isaiah Thomas and Quincy Pondexter and John Brockman and Justin Holiday. Wow. They had 4 NBA players and we had 3. So there was a lot of pros on the floor, high level game. Jawan Johnson was phenomenal. And then we got to, that earned us a trip to go play Hashim Thabeet.
Kemba Walker.
AJ Price. They were good.
Yeah,
they were good.
Tough one. I mean, you talk about, great year. Was that when you were with Team USA?
So I played the following summer.
Okay, so that summer.
So after that, we lost to UConn. I made the U.S. team, the U.S. World University Games team. We had super talent.
Yeah, I believe
Evan Turner, Quincy Pondexter, who I talked about from Washington. Craig Brackens was like a mid first round pick. Jarvis Fernando, I think at the time was, and maybe still is, the all-time NCAA leader in block shots. Deshaun Butler, West Virginia. Lazar Hayward played in the NBA. James Anderson played in the NBA. Our point guards were Taylor Battle, who's an assistant in Northwestern now, Boo Booey's brother, and then Corey Fisher from Villanova. And then there's Deion Thomas from North Carolina. So we had a really good team. Lost in a game that I would say is heavily contested by at least our team with the officials. Lost to Russia.
And that was a semifinal?
In the semis. We beat Serbia in a pool play game.
And it was at Serbia
in Belgrade.
Too, right? Yeah.
And it was, you think the Big Ten is great atmospheres.
Oh, my God.
Play the Serbian national team in Belgrade, and it is a different beast. But, we were talking, because me and Evan Turner were roommates. We're like, man, after seeing the Serbians in Belgrade, it's not going to be anything when we go to East Lansing. That's going to be that's a cakewalk compared to this. They're throwing quarters at us, and it's a different deal in international play, I would say. So ended up getting a bronze medal, which was very disappointing. Lost to Russia. I actually played with one of the Russians on the team my last year in Moscow. So that stunk. But Bo Ryan coached. And Frank Hayes was an assistant, and Rob Jeter was an assistant. So it was
great coaching.
It was a cool experience.
Yeah. You talk about that summer, obviously leading into your junior year. Coming off a Big Ten championship, coming off a title. You obviously want to take a step, towards your junior year, big junior year coming up. Take us through kind of the beginning of that year, what the team was looking like, what the goals were. Obviously, you guys had a really good year.
Yeah, and we had goals of making the Final Four. Yeah. It was held in Indianapolis that year. I just remember everybody coming in phenomenal shape. We used to do, and they still, I think, do it, the mile run at Purdue. Okay. And Coach Payne would give everybody their individualized time. And if you had run it well in years prior, he would bump your time up.
Exactly.
So he made my time 5:05, which is moving for sure.
Can you still get that?
No, I could not do it now. Jawan had like a 5:15. The rest of the guards were 5:30, and the bigs were 6 minutes.
Yep.
Everybody made their time.
Wow.
Which was the first time that the coaches said that's the first time they had never had a player, or at least one, miss their mile time.
Wow.
And if you miss it, you got to run it again.
Exactly.
So it was like on the first day of conditioning when we did that, all right, everybody means business here. Everybody's in great shape. We're ready to roll with this thing. And we got off to a great start. We started 14-0. Beat West Virginia, who was the number 4 or 6 ranked team in the country on New Year's Day, by 20. won a neutral site game against Tennessee down in the Virgin Islands. They were a top 10 team. And then actually ended up losing 3 in a row, which was so bizarre. And we lost a game at home, or we lost it on the road first to Wisconsin. No shame there. They were a top 20 team, tough place to play. Yeah. We actually won there our first 2 years at the Kohl Center. And then lost one to Ohio State at home where we were up by 10 and just gave the game away. Evan Turner went nuts in the second half, which I hate because he still talks shit about to this day.
Of course.
He is the ultimate trash talker for sure. And then we lost to Northwestern.
Yeah.
So that was like, you go from on top of the world, and anyone that plays in the Big Ten has seen this. In the matter of a week or a week and a half, you can go from like, man, we're rolling. When are we going to lose? To God, when are we going to win again? And that's just how this league is.
Yeah, no, you talk about those highs. You actually set a Mackey Arena record for hitting 8 3-points against Ohio State January 12th. The team's rolling, winning a lot of games. Then you guys head on the road, coming here, actually, the University of Minnesota, Williams Arena. You had 11 points to start that one off. And then you went down with the knee injury.
Yeah.
Kind of just take us through what were the instant thoughts? Did you know right away? Had you been hurt before? Kind of what was going through?
So I'd never really been hurt. I'd like rolled an ankle. I'd had a concussion in high school, but not a bad one. And it was never anything where I missed significant time. So the play goes where I'm kind of on the left wing and Etuan Moore has the ball, and he could have shot, which normally he would, and rightfully so.
For sure, yeah.
But he didn't, and he passed it, and I kind of just jab or ball fake to the left and then drive it really hard right. And I've got Damian Johnson guarding me, and like I've done a million times, I'm just trying to jump stop and either let him get by me and kind of go straight up, or even maybe just jump stop and jump into it. I don't know what it was going to be, but yeah. It's going to be something like that. And when I jump stopped, it literally felt like my leg exploded. Like I thought I broke my leg when it happened, and it was painful, and it scared the hell out of me. And I'm laying there, and I'm just like, dude, something is seriously wrong. It was a relief when I got to the ground and I was able to look at my leg and see that it's not
still there.
doing like Kevin Ware like type thing, or it's not my foot is twisted and like that's what it felt like had happened. So they kind of carry me off the floor, and this is probably the worst place to be carried off the floor because you got to be carried down the stairs.
Yep.
So I get down in the training room, and it's funny because Ryan Dodson is your guys' trainer, and he was a GA here. He'd been our trainer the year before. Yep. So he was in there, and Jeff Stein, our trainer, was in there, and there was a team doctor who came and examined me. And I remember asking him, because after about 4 or 5 minutes, the pain had gone away.
Yeah.
Like it hurt really bad right away, and then it was nothing. And so I asked this doctor as he's examining me, I'm like, Doc, I'm feeling better. You think I can go back in tonight?
Yeah.
And he hit me with like, not tonight, son. We're gonna get some testing done.
And figure out.
And that's when you know, like, all right, this is not good.
Yeah. Especially the second time around. Too.
Totally. So, we have to fly back to West Lafayette. And in the back of my mind, I think I knew like my season is probably done, which is devastating because you're the number 3 team in the country. Kentucky and Kansas has just lost in that week. We're going to be the number 1 team in the country, which Purdue had never been until last year. So for our program, that would have been an unbelievable accomplishment, especially because when we committed, Purdue was in last place.
Yeah.
So, and they had definitely made strides. My senior year, they ended up making the NCAA tournament and doing some really positive things and kind of riding Carl Landry and David Teague. But it would have been a huge achievement for us. And then you're talking about the NCAA tournament, and
which was the Final Four in
Indianapolis.
Indianapolis.
It was in Indianapolis. So like the whole season was building up to that. And we closed out every huddle Final Four. Like it wasn't even Big Ten championship. We'd done that. We won the Big Ten tournament. And that was the regular season was certainly a goal too. And I'm glad that we got that. But it was devastating. It totally was. It still is. Like, I don't know how it will ever not be.
Yeah.
Because I still do feel guilty for like, man, my knee cost us a chance to go to the Final Four.
Yeah.
And that sucks.
Is that kind of an attitude you had initially, or was that kind of like an attitude that became developed? Because
I had it initially.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
And if we would have still went, that would have been amazing.
Yeah.
But even like winning the Big Ten regular season title kind of felt cheapened to me because everybody was happy, and I think everybody felt this way, but deep down in the back of everyone's mind, I was like, well, this kind of sucks. Kind of like Villanova going to the Final Four this year. They were all hyped, but their boy just blew his Achilles, that stinks to deal with. So I think we were all reeling, and we had some games that were just horrific after that. We played Michigan State the next game and scored like 47 points. We played Minnesota in the Big Ten tournament. I think we had 9 at halftime. So we really regrouped to even make the Sweet 16 because we were struggling. It was definitely a tough deal, but I was proud of the guys for making it. We lost to Duke, who won the whole thing.
Yeah, who ended up going and playing Butler. Kyle Wiltshire, I think he had like 24 of the national championship. Kyle Singer. Yeah, there you go. When you went down, obviously you get back to Purdue, you get all the tests, you find out ACL's torn, you're going to be out for, they tell you 6 to 9 months type of deal. Was your attitude like, hey, let's get this surgery done, let's get going, we're going to get back for next year? Where did you go mentally? Like, what kind of place did you go to?
I was really positive. I had surgery on my 21st birthday, which sucks.
Yeah.
It really sucks.
The worst night. That's the worst.
My 21st birthday was spent in the hospital having surgery, and I spent a week there in Indianapolis, and I was just totally focused on getting back and hoping and praying that Etwan and Juwan would come back for their senior year. Because that was like, we came in together. We want to finish it together. We're going to be ranked in the top 2 or 3 teams nationally here. And obviously, if they had gotten the feedback they wanted, I couldn't blame those guys for leaving. But I was hoping selfishly,
I don't blame you.
They would come back. Because it was going to be hard enough. Kramer was graduating, Keaton was graduating, but we had Lewis Jackson, we had Tyrone Johnson, who was a really good player as a freshman. Kelsey Barlow was an all-freshman player that junior year. So we had plenty of pieces back. We had a really good team. Ryan Smith, DJ Bird, like those guys were good players. So it was a very positive outlook, I would say, considering what had just happened.
And especially coming off of the year you had, what you're capable of doing. You've been doing it. And it's like, it's one of those deals where it's like, hey, it's February. I don't got to play, Big Ten season until probably December.
Even, right. At that time it was January. We didn't have the early conference games.
So you're in the back of your head. It's like, hey, maybe I missed a little.
Or ease my way back in.
Ease your way into it. Exactly. Totally. And then you get healthy, you go through the whole process, and then something happens again. Take us kind of through that day. It was a practice. Actually, ironically, Purdue was playing Minnesota in football. And
every time I walk into this building, you never know, lightning might strike me here.
This is the best place for you to be.
It was a weird coincidence for sure, but we were practicing at the co-rec because at the time we didn't have the practice facility that they have now. And the women were practicing because it was a football Saturday, so everybody's having visits and recruits, and so both teams practiced at the same time. It was our turn to go to the co-rec. So we're at the student rec center and practicing, and I just jumped up to contest the layup, and I landed, and I felt it, and it didn't hurt nearly as bad, but I knew the feeling. Like you know it, I think, from when you do this. So I knew it was torn. I had to ride in a golf cart back. Fans are like, "Robbie, what's up?" And I'm like, wait till you guys find out what you're about to hear. Seriously, when you guys hear this is not good. So I got examined again, and it was just a miserable day. It really was. It was depressing. And that's where the first one, while it was sad and sucked, you were like, all right, well, I'll just get back. The second one, you're like, dude, I might never play again. Like I literally might not play basketball again. And that was a tough kind of pill to swallow because I love the game. And I was also looking at like, dude, I'm so close to making the NBA. So close. Like I have put myself in such a position. And if you told me when I was, 15 years old, like this is going to be your chance, I'd be like, oh my God, sign me up.
Yeah, exactly.
So it was the second one hit me really hard mentally.
Yeah. And you talk about, that kind of feeling of, hey, I might never play again. Hey, what does basketball even have in store for me? Hey, is basketball even worth it?
Yeah.
Those different emotions that are kind of going, what allowed you to kind of flush those things, or not even flush them, but just like find the positive versus, that negative.
I felt like I had a real desire to get back and playing games like we just watched tonight.
Yeah.
Like you get that crowd, you get the venues here in the Big Ten. And when that's over, that's done. Right. Like even when you go play overseas, unless you're playing in the NBA playoffs, because I played in the NBA for a couple of years just down the street of the Target Center. We had some really terrible crowds because our team was not good. Especially my second year. It's not the same as playing Michigan State on CBS or Ohio State on ESPN on a Super Tuesday.
It's a different locker room, too.
It's a different situation in your life. So I kept a focus on that. Like I want to play in these big time environments one more time because I get one more go around at this. And that's really what kept me motivated. It really was just thinking about how cool it is to get to play in the league that I've watched since I was a little kid.
Yeah. And then you get to see it every single day. You know, you get to go to the games and you get to be like, hey, what is it going to be like when I'm back out there? You know, Mackey's going to go crazy to see you back out there. I kind of had the same, same feelings being, home state. You know, this is where I wanted to play. It's like, we talk about, I'd be remiss if we did talk about our game tonight versus Indiana, incredible game, incredible atmosphere. It's like, those are the kind of things as a competitor you live for.
Totally.
Like you want to
come to school.
You want to be in those moments, it's like the guys that are the dudes, the guys that make it to the next level, like they're the dudes that want to be in that moment. Like they crave that kind of stuff. When does your confidence back? Because coming off double, 2 ACLs, back to back, you probably never were able to you fully recovered. But
I don't think I was ever the same.
Yeah.
And not that I was a great athlete, but I didn't have the same pop. Yeah. I felt like, but it took me a while to get back even close. I had some false confidence early. I had a couple games that were like big games where I just made shots.
Yeah.
But I got into January and I was abysmal in the month of January.
Wow.
Like for like a 3-week stretch. I remember my dad after a game where I went like 3 for 17, like just awful. And it was, in fairness to myself, I guess the team was totally different. I felt like I had to really score, even though I just needed to play.
Yeah.
Like if I was open, shoot. If you're not, move it. Like that's always how I've been.
Yeah. That was your game.
And I felt like, well, Juwan's gone and Etuan's gone, and I'm gonna have to create more and shoot more.
Yeah.
When that really probably wasn't the best thought for me. I needed to be aggressive, but I needed to pass too. And I probably was forcing too much offensively, but I also just didn't have any pop in my legs.
Yeah.
Like I was shooting these shots, everything felt flat, everything felt short. But in February, I finally got some rest, I think, in a stretch, and I saw the ball go in, which is like, the ultimate medication.
Yeah, for sure.
And I just caught fire in February. Like I was making shots and I was scoring and making plays, and that felt really good because it really was a push for us. We won at Michigan, which basically got us in the NCAA tournament. We were on the bubble.
Yeah.
And the NIT was like, this is not an option.
Yeah,
I've played in the NCAA tournament 3 times. We went the year I set out. We have to finish in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
So luckily I played really, really well in February and had a pretty good March. But yeah, that it was tough. I mean, I'm like, dude, I'm a shell of myself in January.
Yeah.
And it's like, am I ever going to get this back?
Mm-hmm.
And you're thinking like, man, I was close to the NBA. What NBA team is going to want this shit?
Yeah.
Like,
no, you're right.
I am terrible.
Yeah, that kind of leads into my next question too. It was that kind of, obviously with a guy of what you've done and, you talk about preseason APL American, you talk about Big Ten, conference MVP tournament, like your sights are set in the NBA, what's the next step. Did those kind of injuries kind of like tell you, hey, you're not going to go, or did
it creeps doubt in your mind
for sure.
But I think you just have to think like, dude, this is a process.
Yeah.
You didn't play basketball for 17 months.
Yeah.
How can you just walk back out here in the Big Ten conference and be who you were?
Yeah.
Like it's going to take some time. It's going to take some adapting to get used to what you are now.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I wasn't Vince Carter by any means. Like I was not like going up and putting my elbow in the rim, but just even like rebounds where it felt like, well, I used to just go get these.
Mm-hmm.
And now I have just guys flying over the top of me and I'm not even close, So, and it helped that it did start to come back. Like I got some pop back in my legs. And again, making shots is the ultimate cure. Like now I can play out the closeout. Now I feel confident. And that was big for me. That really, really helped me.
Yeah. And you talk about a year where it's like, coming off the double and it's like, you obviously you want to have success. You want to go to the tournament. You want to avoid the NIT. You got a taste of it. You don't want more. How hard was that kind of just that process of, coming together with a team when you haven't, because we talk about, we talked on the way up here about you're a part of the team, but, you kind of feel isolated a little bit when you're on the bench.
The worst part about being hurt.
Yeah. How did you kind of integrate yourself back into that? And what kind of steps did you kind of take to feel confident in that role?
It's such a miserable feeling because even though practice at times in a season as long as college basketball, that stretches across 2 semesters, you definitely miss it. And you're watching your teammates go through some struggle and some hard times. And, you're just sitting there watching and you're doing your rehab. You're doing step downs. You're doing leg press. You're doing like these exercises that suck. And I know you've done every one of these friggin' things.
So basic.
You're sitting on the extension board. You're doing the shuttle for your quad. You're just doing all these boring exercises and then you're icing your knees and you're sitting there and you're watching practice and you're just like, man, I want to be out there. So, I think it was just important to me to think once again, like, all right, you're not going to get all this back immediately, and you just got to kind of jump back in and get back out there. Yeah. And I think that the biggest thing for me was the first time you're going to get really hit. Like you're going to get knocked in that knee and it's going to hold and you're going to be like, all right, I'm good. Like I can play through contact because I do remember feeling my first game back. It was an exhibition game. You're like, man, I feel like I'm walking on eggshells out here. I really am a little bit timid.
Especially back to back,
it's totally. Because that's
in an instant it could be done. And if you do it again, did you have that kind of feeling where it's like if you do it again, it's
I mean, I had a talk with our athletic director, Morgan Burke, and they were nice enough to let me choose my surgeon the second time. Yeah. So I went to New York City and David Alczyk did my surgery, and honestly, he saved my career. Yeah. This dude has done an ACL on me, a meniscus repair, and a shoulder repair.
Wow.
And I went back to him as a pro. And he's done NBA players. He's big in the Tommy John deal for pitchers. Yep. But there's three guys in the sports medicine world that you'd be like, all right, those are the three kingpins of ACL recovery. Yeah. And it's Andrews down in Birmingham, and also I think he's in like Pensacola.
Okay.
Alczyk, who's in New York City, and Illustrious, who's in Los Angeles.
Okay. Yeah.
And there was one more at the time, but he kind of screwed people up, and now he's out the list.
Yeah, it was the same kind of situation with me too. Because I did my first one before I was officially signed to the U. So I went to TCO, and there was a guy out of Colorado who was brand new into this new meniscus LET repair that was kind of like
poke the holes thing.
Yeah, that's.
Wait, did you go to Stedman?
No, I went to Dr. Robert LaPrade. Okay. I don't know if you know that name at all.
Stedman was doing the poke the holes thing too.
Yeah. So this one was so it was out of Colorado too. Okay. So they must have been they probably were together or something. But yeah, they took that IT band and they like ripped it and they flipped it over and then they like hammer a nail in. So I got like both of my
for a meniscus repair.
This is for a meniscus. So I messed up my meniscus both out laterally pretty bad. And it was he actually did. I think he did Russell Westbrook's too when Russell Westbrook tore his meniscus. He did Adrian Peterson's ACL. So and then when I was back on campus, I had the choice: do I go with the team doctors or do I go with somebody that I trusted because I really felt good after the first one. So I decided to go that route. End up now it's 7 months after. I think my next question kind of is. You talk about your career in whole. Obviously, you talk about the opportunity to go to the league. You're the 58th pick in the 2012 draft. So you make that a realization, make it come true. Is there anything you wish that would have kind of changed out of your career that didn't because of the injury?
I have a very complicated relationship with my professional basketball career. If you had told me when I was in 5th grade and I'm watching Michael Jordan, I'm watching Bryce Drew, and I'm watching all these players I look up to, that you're like, all right, you're going to play in the NBA for 2 years, and you're going to be an All-American at Purdue, and you're going to play overseas for Giorgio Armani's team, and you're going to play in Moscow, and you're going to play in Spain, and get to experience and make the playoffs in Spain, and have a great season in Spain as a rookie. And you're going to get to experience that. I'd have been like, man, sign me the hell up. Like, that sounds great.
Yeah, exactly.
I live in Valparaiso, Indiana, where there's been one pro, one guy make the NBA, Bryce Drew, So it's like, I would take that in a heartbeat. But once you get to Purdue and you start to have success and you're looking at like, man, you're an All-American and you're like seeing yourself on draft boards and you're playing the best basketball you ever played in your life. Yeah. And then it all gets taken from you and physically everything changes in that one instant here at the barn.
Yep.
I don't know how I feel. Like I don't know if I had a good pro career or not. I really don't. And I really battle that. And I think announcing has helped that because it's kept me in the game and it's something I can work towards and try to get better at it, much like I would do as a player.
Yeah.
And it just keeps me in basketball. Because for most people, when basketball ends, you're just like, man, this shit's over.
Yeah.
Like I got to go get a real job.
Yeah.
Which is terrifying.
People, for sure.
Yeah. No, it is.
No doubt.
So to answer your question, I don't know if I would change anything. But I really am conflicted on whether I'm like, yo, you had a great run, or you're like, dude, that's really disappointing. You should have played in the league for 10 years.
Well, exactly. And we spoke about JJ earlier. I'm a big fan of JJ's pod. Sure. And Victor Oladipo was on it, and he always kept saying the word fortunately instead of unfortunately. And I hear unfortunately a lot. Everybody says, oh, it's so unfortunate you tore your ACL. It's so unfortunate. And now I've kind of like flipped that kind of script in my head.
It's like,
hey, it's I'm fortunate because it made me into, who I am. Maybe I'm not going to have the exact career that I, planned on having and but it kind of turned me into the guy I am today. So, I think that's
a good way to look at it.
Positive thing out of it. Oh gosh. Of course. Our nutritionist is calling me.
Get those post-game nutrients in there.
Yeah, right. All right. All right. So you end up being 58th pick, 2012 NBA draft. So quick fire Minneapolis questions because you were here wrapping up. East Metro or West Metro?
Boy, I don't even know what that is. That's
like east side of Minneapolis or like
So
west? Like where'd you live?
So I lived in the warehouse district across from Bar La Grasse my first year, and I lived in Uptown my second year.
Okay,
over by
so more west side.
I guess I am. Yeah, but I haven't heard
west
that.
side.
Yeah, that's the real Minneapolis.
That's kind of how we describe it because Minneapolis is kind of more west and St. Paul's kind of more east. So I kind of claim St. Paul because I'm from St. Paul.
Gotcha. So I was more Minneapolis.
Best pizza place, Minneapolis, St. Paul.
Pizza. Man.
And this can be like a 2012, 2013.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of what the place was called that we always went to, that we always get. And now
wasn't Black, was it?
It's down by the Target Center.
By the Target Center. Oh gosh.
Well, pizza, I don't know. I could tell you my favorite restaurant.
That was the next one. What's the best? Like, you get a win. Lakers are in town. You beat the Lakers. Where are you guys going to eat?
It would have been Murray's
for sure,
or Bar La Grasse, but I love Murray's.
Yeah,
I used to go on that radio show with Sid Hartman.
Yep.
Is a legend, and every time you went on it, you would get $100 gift card for the silver butter nice steak. So I was like, Sid, I'll come on here.
Yeah,
literally every day.
It has to be the best steak.
It's so good.
Right?
It's so good. We got it during for Big Ten Media Day. We were up here, and a group of us went and got one and split it. It's so good.
And Bar La Grasse is great. I actually had never been until 3-4 weeks ago.
That's a good spot.
I went for the first time and got a great bottle of wine. Had great gnocchi. Was
I lived right across the street from an apartment, and we would go a lot. Ricky Rubio really liked Bar La Grasse. Ronnie Turioff really liked Bar La Grasse, so we would all go together a lot.
Best bar nightclub scene.
Bar. I'm trying to think what the names are now. This is how old I am.
Jeez, come on, man. This was
here. God, what was?
Come on, I know when you got a dub and you went out somewhere with the guys. Where's everybody going?
Was there a bar called the Loon?
The Loon, yeah. That was right by the Target.
We would go there sometimes. There was a nightcllub over,
which is closed now. Actually,
the Loon closed.
Closed now. Yeah.
There was some saloon. This is pathetic.
Sally's Saloon, maybe.
Might be that.
Okay. That's on campus here.
No, it wasn't that. It was down by Target Center again on that is it Third Avenue?
Yeah, Third Ave. Yep.
They had a bull you could ride in there. So it was like a country bar type thing.
That's exciting.
The fact that I don't remember these names is truly pathetic.
Yeah. You gotta get up here.
The restaurants I can remember, but the bars, and it's not like we didn't go out.
Yeah.
I mean, Jesus. I should know that, but I am literally drawing a blank. I have not. I know that we did go to the Loon though.
So the Loon was a spot. All right. So lastly, we always wrap up every single podcast with this. Advice you would give to 12-year-old Robbie Hummel, or advice you would give to 12-year-old just someone random athlete that's going through, whether it's adversity, whether it's injury, something in their life. Like what's your kind of message to getting over that?
I would just stick with it.
Yeah.
I think I am a firm believer in the fact that if you work at something and you stay the course, that good things happen to people that do that.
Mm-hmm.
So just to put the work in. And I would encourage that 12-year-old kid to find something that you really love to do.
Yeah.
And in my case, it was play basketball and just, consume yourself with it.
Mm-hmm.
And whether that's an instrument or that's studying history, that's speaking a language or whatever that thing is for that kid, just dive in and dream that anything can be possible. Because I said there's been one NBA player from Valparaiso, Indiana before me. And in my mind, and my mom will find these things and from when I was in preschool.
Yeah.
And I would write, what is the deal of like, what's going to be your career?
Yep.
And sometimes I was too embarrassed. I would put weatherman, but most of them that she finds will say NBA player.
Yeah.
Even though I was kind of like, well, maybe that's like stupid. That's not a realistic thing.
Mm-hmm.
But we found plenty of them that she showed me over the years where it said, man, NBA player. Yeah. This is what I want to be.
Yeah.
And I think that if you put your mind to it, and certainly I was fortunate. My dad is 6'6", my mom's 5'7", I am 6'8".
Yeah.
That definitely gives you a leg up on things.
Sure.
And if you're from Indiana, you probably have a flame for a jump shot.
Yep.
That always helps too,
Yep.
just from being from that state and learning how to play in that state. But just dive in on that stuff. and go all in. Like, don't be half in. Be all in on what your dream is.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Robbie, we want to thank you for coming on the pod,
Yeah,
taking some time late night here in Materi Pavilion. It's almost coming on midnight now. You got to get out to Memphis in the morning, but thank you for taking some time.
No
we
problem.
really appreciate it. Yeah.
And
And that's been the Double Down Podcast, episode 15. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you're following us on all social medias at double_down_podcast, and episodes drop every Friday. Thanks again, Robbie.
No problem.
There we go.